So growing up, I didn't really have much of a relationship with my grandpa. He was an alcoholic who didn't want anything to do with God. It was really closed off, really hard to talk to about, really anything from the Lord. But so I really didn't ever have the opportunity to really present the gospel to him. And a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from my father saying that, hey, Grandpa's in the hospital, he's not doing good, looks like he's not gonna make it. He's in his 80s, and just not doing good. So I'm sitting there in Tuesday morning staff meeting with our youth ministry, and I just said to my dad, I said, has anybody had the chance to present the gospel to him yet? And he said, no, nobody's done that. And I says, you need to get in there and present the gospel to him. And he's like, well, okay. And I said, can you put me on speakerphone in there with him? And he said, let me see what I can do. So a few minutes later, he gets back to me and says, Kay, you're on speaker, go ahead. And my grandpa was in ICU, he was on life support, and was sleeping or kind of in and out of consciousness. And, your hearing is the last thing to go. People can still hear in those moments. And so he put the phone down by his ear, and I just had this conviction in my heart, he's got to hear this, So I just began to just go after it and preach the gospel. And just telling him, Grandpa, I know you haven't believed in the Lord all your life. I know that you haven't really known God all your life. And I want to tell you right now that the grace of God is stunning. I mean, it's deeper than anything you could imagine. And he loves you. He loves you so much. He died on the cross for you. And just shared the gospel, and then told him, anybody who calls in the name of the Lord will be saved. You can be saved right now in these moments. And then, and said amen, and asked my dad, well, I told my dad, I said, you got to keep speaking the word into his ear. You got to keep declaring that into his ear. And my dad was like, all right. I said, you got to keep going after it. And he says, okay. Well, do you want me to put you back on speakerphone? I said, yeah, put me back on speaker. So he puts me back on speaker, and I just go after it again. And this time his eyes opened up. And he said, his eyes are open. And I said, well, ask him right now if he wants to receive Christ into his life. And so he asked him, Grandpa, do you want to receive Christ into your life? And my mom said that his arms and his legs were moving, and that was a response to whoever was talking to him. So I just began to preach the gospel again, and just saying some of those same things. But I told him, I said, Grandpa, you need to be ready to meet your Maker, and He loves you. He's passionate for you. And so I prayed, and led him to the Lord. He couldn't really speak much, but he was listening. And afterwards, my mom told me that she saw him mouth with his mouth, "Thank you." And I was like, wow. That was a wild moment. I got off the phone and I'm just buzzing, like, oh my gosh, I just got to lead my grandpa to the Lord. I was freaking out. It was wild. And the next morning, I get a text from my dad that my grandpa passed away in the middle of the night. And wow, that's just like, what a moment,